The Vrakthari Empire had ruled the outer edges of the galaxy for over 3,000 years. Their massive black warships moved through space like deadly sharks hunting for prey. Each ship was 15 kilometers long and covered in weapons that could destroy entire planets. The Vrakthari themselves were nightmare creatures that had crawled out of evolution's darkest dreams. They stood 12 feet tall on powerful legs that could leap incredible distances. Their bodies were covered in thick, dark scales that could stop most weapons. Sharp claws extended from their hands, each one capable of cutting through steel like paper. But their most terrifying feature was the bioluminescent crest that ran along their heads and necks. When they hunted, these crests would glow bright red, creating a horrifying sight that had driven countless species to madness. Captain Thekmor stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Blood Hunter. His yellow eyes scanned the star charts displayed on the holographic table before him. His hunting crest flickered with excitement as he studied the latest intelligence reports. The bridge was dark except for the eerie glow of various alien technologies they had stolen from conquered worlds. For the Vrakthari, the universe was simple. There were only two types of beings, predators and prey. They had never met a species that didn't fit into one of these categories. The predators either joined their empire or were destroyed. The prey became slaves, food, or entertainment in their brutal arenas. War Alpha Gorth, Thekmor called to his second-in-command, a scarred veteran whose crest bore the marks of 100 successful hunts. "Show me the report on this Sol system." Gorth approached with the tablet containing their latest intelligence. "Captain, our scouts have observed a small blue planet in the system. The inhabitants call themselves humans. They are soft-skinned bipeds, only 6 feet tall on average. Their technology is primitive, they have barely left their home planet." Thekmor's crest began to glow brighter with interest. "Population? Approximately 8 billion, Captain. They appear to be social creatures living in large groups. They have no natural armor, no claws, no fangs. Their physical capabilities are laughable compared to proper predator species." The captain walked to the massive viewing window that showed the stars beyond. Behind him, his bridge crew of 20 Vrakthari warriors waited for orders. Each one was a proven killer who had earned their place through combat. "What are their military capabilities?" Thekmor asked. "Basic kinetic weapons, some primitive energy systems. Their largest warships are barely 300 meters long. They seem to rely on something they call nuclear weapons for planetary defense, but these are crude fusion devices that would barely scratch our shields." Thekmor laughed, a sound like grinding metal that echoed through the bridge. "Perfect. The High Command grows tired of the lack of worthy prey in our territory. These humans will provide excellent sport." He moved back to the star chart and began planning the attack. The Vrakthari had perfected their hunting tactics over millennia. First, they would position their fleet around the prey world to prevent escape. Then they would broadcast their demands. Most species surrendered immediately when they saw the size of a Vrakthari war fleet. "Their cities are large and densely populated," Gorth noted, pointing to the surveillance images. "We could easily capture millions of specimens for the arenas and slave markets." "Yes, but I want to make this hunt memorable," Thekmor said, his claws tapping against the metal table. "Send word to the other hunting fleets. Tell them we have found fresh prey. I want this to be a proper great hunt." The Great Hunt was a Vrakthari tradition that happened only when they discovered a particularly interesting prey species. Instead of a simple conquest, they would make it into a galaxy-wide spectacle. Other Vrakthari would come to watch and participate. The strongest humans would be captured alive for the arenas, while the rest would be processed according to Vrakthari needs. "Captain," another warrior spoke from his position at the communication station. "The human signals we have intercepted show they have something called entertainment media. They create fictional stories about creatures like us, they call them monsters and aliens. In their stories, these creatures always lose to human heroes." The entire bridge erupted in harsh laughter. The idea that these soft, weak creatures would create fantasies about defeating proper predators was hilarious to the Vrakthari. "How amusing," Thekmor said, wiping a tear from his eye. "They dream of being warriors while remaining prey. Perhaps we should let them know that their nightmares are about to become real." He turned to face his crew. "Prepare the fleet. We leave for the Sol system in 6 standard cycles. Send messages to Warfleet 7, 12, and 23. Tell them to join us for the Great Hunt of Earth." The bridge became busy with activity as warriors rushed to prepare for departure. Weapons were checked, ships were fueled, and hunting equipment was loaded. The Vrakthari took great pride in their tools of war. Each weapon was crafted for maximum terror as well as efficiency. As his crew worked, Thekmore returned to studying the images of Earth. The planet looked so peaceful from space, covered in blue oceans and white clouds. Soon those oceans would run red with the blood of this prey species. He had personally overseen the conquest of 4 to 7 worlds. Each time, the pattern was the same: initial resistance, growing despair, and finally complete surrender. Captain, Gorth approached again. There is one curious thing about these humans. They seem to have eliminated most of the large predator species on their own planet. Oh? Thekmore's interest was piqued. Yes, Captain. Their historical records show they once shared their world with massive creatures, things they called mammoths, cave bears, and saber-toothed cats. All of these species are now extinct, apparently due to human activity. Thekmore shrugged. Environmental destruction is common among primitive species. They probably poisoned their own world and killed everything by accident. It matters little. In 6 cycles, they will learn what real predators can do. The captain had no way of knowing that he had just dismissed the most important piece of intelligence his scouts had gathered. As the Vrakthari fleet prepared for what they thought would be another easy hunt, they remained completely unaware of what humanity really was. Dr. Emily Watson had been staring at the same screen for 3 hours straight. Her coffee had gone cold, but she didn't notice. The numbers dancing across her monitor made no sense, yet they were absolutely real. Something massive was coming toward Earth, and it was slowing down. The Deep Space Monitoring Station orbited Earth at a safe distance, constantly watching for asteroids, comets, or anything else that might threaten the planet. Emily had worked there for 8 years and had never seen anything like this. The energy signatures were enormous, bigger than anything humans had ever built. "Hey, Emily," called Tom Bradley from across the room. "Are you seeing this too, or am I going crazy?" Emily looked up at her colleague. Tom was usually calm and professional, but now his face was pale and his hands were shaking slightly. "If you're seeing 15 massive objects decelerating into our solar system, then yes, I'm seeing it too." The two scientists stared at each other for a moment. Then Emily grabbed her phone and dialed the emergency number for Earth Defense Command. The phone rang twice before a crisp voice answered. "This is Admiral Robert Turner. What's your status, Watson?" "Sir, we have a situation. 15 unknown objects, each approximately 15 kilometers in length, have entered our solar system. They're definitely artificial, and they're slowing down in a way that suggests controlled flight." There was silence on the other end of the line for several seconds. Emily could hear muffled voices in the background as the Admiral spoke to someone else. "Are you absolutely certain these are artificial objects, Doctor?" "Yes, sir. The energy patterns are consistent with advanced propulsion systems. Nothing natural could move like this." "How long until they reach Earth?" Emily checked her calculations again. "At their current speed and trajectory, approximately 72 hours, sir." "Understood. Keep monitoring and report any changes immediately. And Watson? Don't discuss this with anyone outside your immediate team until further notice." The line went dead. Emily looked at Tom, who had been listening to every word. "Well," she said, "I guess first contact won't be happening the way the movies predicted." Over the next 2 days, the objects continued their steady approach toward Earth. Military satellites repositioned themselves to get better views, and the images they sent back were terrifying. The alien ships looked like nothing humans had ever imagined. They were long, dark, and covered in what appeared to be weapon systems. No attempt at communication, no peaceful symbols, just pure military intimidation. Lieutenant Commander James Miller sat in the communications center trying everything he could think of. He had sent mathematical sequences, prime numbers, music, pictures, and basic language lessons toward the approaching fleet. Every radio frequency, every type of signal Earth could produce had been aimed at the alien ships. The response was always the same: complete silence. "Sir," one of his technicians called out, "we're getting something." James rushed to the communication station. After 3 days of silence, the aliens were finally responding. But as the message came through the speakers, everyone in the room felt their blood turn to ice. The voice was deep and harsh, like metal grinding against stone. It spoke in perfect English, though the accent was unlike anything from Earth. "Greetings, prey species. We are the Vrakthari. Your world has been selected for the Great Hunt. You have brought this upon yourselves by existing in our territory." The message continued, and each word made the situation worse. "We offer you one chance to minimize your suffering. Surrender your strongest specimens for our arenas, and your species will be preserved as breeding stock. Your warriors will provide entertainment for our people. Your scientists will serve our empire. Your children will be raised to better serve their masters. James felt sick as he recorded every word. This wasn't first contact, it was a declaration of war. Resist our generous offer, the alien voice continued, and your entire species will face extinction. Your cities will burn. Your oceans will boil. Your planet will become a monument to the foolishness of prey that believes it can fight predators. The message ended with coordinates for where human representatives should come to surrender. James immediately sent the recording to Admiral Turner and every major world leader. Within hours, emergency meetings were taking place in every capital on Earth. The United Nations called an unprecedented session. Military leaders from every nation gathered via secure video links. Scientists, philosophers, and religious leaders all tried to make sense of humanity's first contact with alien life. Dr. Emily Watson found herself in a room full of the most important people on Earth. She had never expected her career to lead to briefing world leaders about an alien invasion, but here she was, explaining what her team had learned about the Vrakthari ships. Based on our analysis, she told the assembled officials, these beings are extremely advanced technologically, but their communication patterns suggest a very specific mindset. They don't see us as equals or potential allies. They literally view us as animals to be hunted. President Martinez of the American Federation leaned forward. Dr. Watson, in your professional opinion, is there any chance this is some kind of test or misunderstanding? Emily shook her head. No, Madam President. Their language is very clear. They've done this before, probably many times. They have specific procedures for conquest, specific ways of categorizing the species they encounter. We've been classified as prey species and everything follows from that classification. Admiral Turner spoke up from his position at the head of the table. The question now is how we respond. These aliens clearly expect us to surrender without a fight. Their whole message assumes we'll be terrified into submission. And why shouldn't we be? Asked Chancellor Weber from the European Union. Their ships are massive, their technology is obviously superior, and they've apparently conquered other worlds before us. The room fell silent as everyone contemplated humanity's options. Outside the windows, people continued their daily lives, unaware that representatives of their species were deciding whether to fight or surrender to alien invaders. Dr. Watson looked around the room at the faces of Earth's leaders. Some looked terrified, others angry, and a few seemed strangely calm. There's one thing the aliens might not understand about humans, she said quietly. Admiral Turner raised an eyebrow. What's that, Doctor? They keep calling us prey. But humans didn't become the dominant species on Earth by being prey. We became dominant by being very, very good at hunting. The first Vrakthari ships entered Earth's atmosphere at dawn on Tuesday morning. Captain Thekmore watched from his flagship as his hunting squadrons descended toward the major cities. Everything was going exactly as planned. The humans had not responded to their surrender demand, which meant they would be conquered the traditional way. Target the largest population centers first, Thekmore ordered his pack leaders. New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow. The humans will surrender quickly once they see our power. War Alpha Gorth stood beside his captain, studying the tactical displays. The human military vessels are retreating, Captain. Their largest warships are pulling back from Earth's orbit. They appear to be running away. Thekmore's hunting crest glowed with satisfaction. As expected. Prey species always flee when faced with real predators. Signal all hunting parties to begin landing operations. The first Vrakthari dropships touched down in Central Park in New York City. The massive alien warriors emerged from their vessels expecting to find crowds of terrified humans begging for mercy. Instead, they found empty streets and abandoned buildings. Subalpha Krex led the first hunting party through the deserted city. His 12 warriors moved in perfect formation, their weapons ready and their crests glowing bright red. But something felt wrong. The silence was too complete, too organized. Where are they? Asked one of his warriors. Our sensors detected millions of humans in this area yesterday. Krex sniffed the air with his enhanced senses. Human scent was everywhere, but it was old. The trails led in every direction, making it impossible to track any single group. It was as if the entire human population had vanished overnight. Check those buildings, Krex ordered. They must be hiding somewhere. The Vrakthari warriors kicked down doors and smashed through windows. They found evidence that humans had been there recently, warm food on tables, computers still running, televisions broadcasting news reports about the alien invasion. But no humans. As Krex's team moved deeper into the city, they triggered the first trap. A simple pressure plate activated an explosive device that brought down part of a building, blocking their retreat route. No one was injured, but suddenly the empty city felt much more dangerous. This was planned, Krex realized. The humans didn't flee in panic. They evacuated in an organized way. Similar scenes played out across the globe. Vrakthari hunting parties landed in major cities only to find them completely empty. London, Paris, Berlin, Tokyo, every major population center had been abandoned in a way that suggested careful planning rather than panic. Above Earth's atmosphere, Captain Thekmore was receiving increasingly frustrated reports from his hunting parties. The humans were supposed to be cowering in their cities, easy targets for capture. Instead, they had disappeared like smoke. "Captain," his communications officer reported, "we're detecting movement in the rural areas. The humans appear to have scattered into small groups across their entire planet." "Then we hunt them like any other prey," Thekmore snarled. "Deploy all hunting parties. Search every forest, every mountain, every hiding place on this world." But hunting scattered humans proved much more difficult than expected. When Vrakthari search teams landed in forested areas, they found themselves in carefully prepared kill zones. Hidden human soldiers would strike with sniper fire, then disappear before the aliens could respond. The humans fought unlike any prey species the Vrakthari had encountered. They didn't stand and fight honorable battles. They didn't cower in fear. Instead, they used hit-and-run tactics, attacking from concealed positions and then vanishing into terrain they knew better than their hunters. Lieutenant Sarah Collins crouched in her concealed position overlooking a Vrakthari landing zone. She and her team had been waiting for 3 hours, watching the aliens establish their temporary base. Through her scope, she studied the enemy warriors. "They are big and strong," she whispered into her radio, "but they move like they expect everything to run away from them. They're not watching for ambushes." "Copy that, Ghost 7, came the reply from command. "Take your shot when ready." Sarah lined up her crosshairs on the alien commander, a massive creature with glowing red markings on its head. She squeezed the trigger, and the specially designed armor-piercing round struck the alien center mass. The creature roared and fell backward, dark fluid spreading across its chest. The other aliens immediately began looking around wildly, trying to locate the shooter. But Sarah and her team were already moving, using underground tunnels to reach their extraction point. By the time the Vrakthari organized a search, the humans were miles away. This pattern repeated across Earth. Human military units would strike at isolated alien groups, then disappear before reinforcements could arrive. The Vrakthari found themselves chasing ghosts through terrain that seemed designed to confuse and trap them. Captain Thekmore stared at the tactical display showing his forces spread across Earth's surface. Red markers indicated attacks on his troops, and there were dozens of them. Each individual attack was small, but together they were bleeding his forces. "Captain," War Alpha Gorth reported, "we've lost contact with 12 hunting parties in the last 6 hours. The humans are not fighting like prey." "All prey fights when cornered," Thekmore replied, but his voice lacked its usual confidence. "They will exhaust themselves soon and surrender." But the human attacks continued through the night and into the next day. Worse, the humans seemed to be learning from each encounter. Their tactics became more sophisticated, their traps more deadly, and their ability to avoid Vrakthari retaliation more effective. In space above Earth, Admiral Turner coordinated the human response from his flagship. The human fleet hadn't retreated in fear as the aliens assumed. They had repositioned to better support ground operations and prepare for the next phase of the plan. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "our monitoring stations are picking up increasingly frustrated communications from the alien fleet. They expected this to be over by now." Admiral Turner smiled grimly. "They thought they were hunting sheep. They're about to learn they're dealing with wolves." On the surface, Dr. Emily Watson worked with teams of scientists studying captured alien equipment and analyzing the Vrakthari warriors themselves. What they discovered would change everything humanity thought it knew about their enemies. The trap was indeed set, and the hunters were about to become the hunted. The breakthrough came at 0300 hours on Thursday morning. Dr. Emily Watson stood in the underground laboratory complex, staring at the most important discovery in human history. On the medical table before her lay an unconscious Vrakthari warrior, captured during a failed alien raid on a supply depot. The creature was even more impressive up close. 12 feet of muscle, scales, and razor-sharp claws. Its bioluminescent crest had dimmed while unconscious, but Emily could see the complex patterns that must glow during hunting displays. Everything about the alien screamed apex predator. But Emily's instruments told a different story. Look at these readings, she said to Dr. Michael Ross, her research partner. Heart rate, breathing pattern, muscle tension. This thing is built for short bursts of incredible speed and power, but terrible endurance. Michael checked the data again. You're right. After just 5 minutes of combat, its stress hormones spike through the roof. It's like a cheetah, deadly in a sprint, but useless in a marathon. Emily moved around the table, taking more measurements. And look at this brain scan. The frontal cortex is smaller than expected for a species with their technology level. Most of their brain is dedicated to instinct and reflexes. The door to the laboratory opened, and Colonel David Pierce entered with a tablet full of intelligence reports. Doctors, we've analyzed the communication patterns from their ships. You need to see this. He showed them pages of intercepted alien communications. The messages were simple, repetitive, and followed the same basic patterns over and over again. They don't adapt their tactics, Colonel Pierce explained. Every attack follows the same plan. Land, make noise, expect surrender, become confused when it doesn't work. Dr. Watson felt pieces of a puzzle clicking together in her mind. David, show me the recordings of their surrender demand again. They played the alien message, and Emily listened carefully to every word. Notice how they describe their process, she said. They don't negotiate. They don't explore diplomatic options. They just demand surrender and assume it will happen. So what are you thinking? Michael asked. I'm thinking we've made a fundamental error about what these creatures actually are, Emily replied. She pulled up images of Earth's predators on her computer. Look at lions hunting gazelles. The lion roars, shows its size and strength. Most gazelles run away immediately. The lion only has to actually catch and kill a few before the entire herd scatters. Michael nodded slowly. You're saying the Vrakthari are like lions? No, Emily interrupted. I'm saying they're like peacocks. She pulled up more data from their prisoner. Everything about them is designed for display, not actual combat. The glowing crests, the ritual posturing, the loud roaring. They're not built to fight extended battles. They're built to look scary enough that prey species surrender without fighting. Colonel Pierce studied the information with growing excitement. That explains their confusion about our tactics. They expect immediate surrender or immediate flight. They've never dealt with prey that fights back strategically. Emily moved to another computer and began typing rapidly. I need to run a full physiological analysis. If I'm right, these apex predators have some very serious weaknesses. Over the next 6 hours, Emily's team discovered the truth about their enemies. The Vrakthari were indeed successful hunters, but only because they had never encountered true resistance. Their entire species had evolved around intimidating other creatures into submission. Their claws, while sharp, were relatively fragile and designed for slashing soft tissue. Their scales could stop basic projectiles but were vulnerable to modern human weapons. Most importantly, their legendary endurance was completely fictional. After just minutes of intense activity, a Vrakthari warrior would be exhausted and easy to defeat. It's brilliant in a way, Emily explained to the Emergency Command Council via secure video link. They evolved to be perfect at looking like the ultimate predator. But they never had to actually become the ultimate predator because their display worked so well. Admiral Turner leaned forward on the screen. Dr. Watson, are you telling me that these aliens who have conquered multiple worlds are basically just very scary-looking bullies? That's exactly what I'm telling you, Admiral. And I think I know how we can prove it. Emily's plan was psychological warfare on a scale never before attempted. Human communication specialists began broadcasting on frequencies they knew the Vrakthari monitored. But instead of pleas for mercy or demands for withdrawal, they transmitted something much more dangerous, scientific analysis. The broadcasts were calm, professional, and devastating. Human scientists described Vrakthari anatomy with clinical precision, pointing out every weakness and limitation they had discovered. They compared the aliens to Earth species, noting similarities to display-based predators like peacocks and pufferfish. Most damaging of all, they began broadcasting historical documentaries about human hunting practices. The aliens learned how human ancestors had tracked mammoth across continents, how they had driven entire species extinct through persistence hunting, how they had conquered every environment on Earth through intelligence and adaptability. Captain Thekmore listened to these broadcasts with growing horror. The humans spoke about his species like scientists studying insects. They showed no fear, no respect, no acknowledgement of Vrakthari superiority. Instead, they discussed the aliens' weaknesses with the same tone they might use to describe the habits of prey animals. Turn off those transmissions, Thekmore ordered his communications officer. I cannot, Captain. They are broadcasting on every frequency simultaneously. And Captain, our own warriors are listening to them. That was the real damage. As human broadcasts spread throughout the Vrakthari fleet, the alien warriors began to hear things that shattered their worldview. They learned that humans had eliminated most large predators from their own planet. They heard about human endurance capabilities, human tactical flexibility, human ability to adapt and improvise. Worst of all, they began to understand that humans saw them not as terrifying apex predators, but as interesting specimens to be studied and defeated. War Alpha Gorth approached his captain with the latest battle reports. Captain, morale among the hunting parties is declining. The warriors are beginning to question whether these humans are actually prey species. Thekmore's crest flickered with uncertainty. For the first time in his life, he was experiencing something no Vrakthari was supposed to feel, doubt. The humans had turned the tables completely, transforming the hunters into subjects of scientific curiosity. The psychological warfare had worked perfectly. The Vrakthari were about to learn what it felt like to be prey. The final battle began at sunrise on Sunday morning, but it wasn't the glorious combat Captain Thekmore had expected. Human forces had spent the entire week studying their enemy, learning every pattern, understanding every weakness. When Admiral Turner gave the order to strike, humanity fought with surgical precision. The Vrakthari fleet hung in Earth's orbit, expecting another day of hunting scattered human prey. Instead, they found themselves facing something they had never encountered before, an enemy that understood them better than they understood themselves. The first wave of human attacks came from unexpected angles. Small, fast ships appeared from behind Earth's moon, firing electromagnetic pulse weapons that had been specifically designed to disrupt Vrakthari shield systems. The aliens had never faced an enemy that could adapt their weapons so quickly to counter alien technology. Shields failing on decks 7 through 12, reported Thekmore's tactical officer. The human weapons are targeting our exact shield frequencies. Impossible, Thekmore snarled. No prey species could learn our technology so quickly. But the humans had done more than learn. They had studied captured Vrakthari equipment for days, understanding not just how it worked, but how to defeat it. Every human attack was precisely calculated to exploit weaknesses the aliens didn't even know they had. On the surface of Earth, the real destruction of Vrakthari confidence was taking place. Human special operations teams had spent the week identifying the aliens' command structure and learning their behavioral patterns. Now they put that knowledge to deadly use. Lieutenant Sarah Collins lay in her sniper position, watching a group of 12 Vrakthari warriors surge through an abandoned city. Through her scope, she could identify which alien was the pack leader by watching their body language and the way the others positioned themselves around him. Ghost 7 to command, she whispered into her radio. I have eyes on the target. Pack leader confirmed. Take the shot, Ghost 7. Phase 2 is go. Sarah lined up her crosshairs on the alien commander's head, specifically targeting the glowing crest that marked his status. The specially designed round punched through the alien skull, and the massive warrior collapsed instantly. The effect on the remaining aliens was immediate and devastating. Without their pack leader, they began to panic, running in different directions and making confused distress calls. Their entire command structure was based on dominance displays rather than tactical training, and when the dominant individual was removed, the whole system collapsed. This scene played out across Earth as human sniper teams systematically eliminated Vrakthari pack leaders. The aliens had never faced an enemy that specifically targeted their command structure. Within hours, entire hunting parties were wandering aimlessly, unable to function without their leaders. War Alpha Gorth crouched behind the wreckage of his transport ship, his breathing heavy and labored. His hunting pack of 20 warriors had been reduced to just 4 survivors. The humans had attacked them with tactics he couldn't understand, never showing themselves for direct combat, always striking from concealment, then disappearing before the Vrakthari could respond. War Alpha, one of his remaining warriors whispered, we should retreat. These humans, they hunt us like we are the prey. Gorth wanted to roar defiance, to maintain the traditional Vrakthari pride, but the words died in his throat. The human was right. For the first time in his life, Gorth understood what it felt like to be hunted by a superior predator. A movement in the ruins caught his attention. A human soldier emerged from behind a collapsed wall, weapon raised and aimed directly at Gorth's position. The War Alpha prepared for his final battle, but the human didn't fire immediately. Surrender, the human said in accented but understandable Vrakthari language. You're beaten. Don't make this harder than it has to be. Gorth stared at the human soldier. The creature was small, soft-looking, without natural weapons or armor. Everything about it screamed prey species. Yet here it stood, calmly offering terms to a HFY War Alpha as if the outcome of any fight between them was already decided. The most terrifying part was that Gorth believed the human was right. Above Earth's atmosphere, Captain Thekmore watched his fleet fall apart around him. Human ships attacked with coordinated precision, targeting specific systems rather than trying to destroy his vessels outright. They disabled weapons first, then engines, then life support, forcing surrender rather than fighting to the death. "Captain," his communications officer reported, "incoming message from the human fleet." "Put it through," Thekmore said, though his voice had lost all its former confidence. Admiral Turner's face appeared on the main screen. The human looked calm, professional, almost bored. "Captain Thekmore, I am Admiral Robert Turner of the Earth Defense Force. Your fleet is defeated. Your ground forces are captured or destroyed. I'm offering you one chance to surrender with honor." Thekmore's crest flickered weakly. You are prey. We are the HFY. We do not surrender to prey." Admiral Turner's expression didn't change. "Captain, your species made a fundamental error. You assumed that because we look soft and weak, we must be prey. But you never asked the important question: how did humans become the dominant species on a planet full of creatures bigger, stronger, and more naturally armed than we are?" The human admiral leaned forward slightly. "We didn't become dominant by being prey, Captain. We became dominant by being very, very good at hunting anything that threatened us, including other predators." Thekmore looked around his bridge at his remaining crew. Their crests had dimmed to almost nothing, their proud posture replaced by defeated slouching. For 3,000 years, the HFY had ruled through intimidation and superior firepower. But they had never faced an enemy that refused to be intimidated and could match their technology while surpassing their tactics. What are your terms?" Thekmore asked, the words tasting like poison in his mouth. "Complete withdrawal from this system," Admiral Turner replied. "Immediate release of all prisoners from previous conquests. And a message sent to your high command explaining exactly what happened here." Thekmore's tactical officer whispered urgently, "Captain, we should send a warning to the home worlds. These humans are not prey. They are apex predators." With his crest completely dark and his pride shattered, Captain Thekmore sent his final transmission to the HFY High Command: "Abort all operations in the Sol system. Classification error, humans are not prey species. Repeat, humans are apex predators. Recommend immediate territorial concessions and non-aggression protocols." As the HFY fleet limped away from Earth, humanity quietly began expanding outward into the galaxy. They were no longer the hunted, but the hunters, and the universe would never be the same.